The flickering fire cast grotesque shadows on the log walls of the cabin. Molly Finney, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs, strained to hear anything over the howling wind that seemed to claw at the very timbers. News of the Indian raids had reached them weeks ago, whispers carried on the cold breath of winter. Yet, tonight, the nightmare had become dreadfully real. Screams ripped through the frigid air, a horrifying counterpoint to the crackling flames. Molly, frozen in terror, could only watch as the cabin door shattered inwards. A hulking figure, face obscured by war paint, filled the doorway. Panic surged through her as she saw the glint of a blade reflecting the firelight. Her scream died in her throat, choked by the sight of Thomas, her brother-in-law, crumpling to the floor, a crimson stain blossoming on his chest. Chaos erupted. Her sister, Sarah, crumpled beside Thomas, a blood-curdling wail escaping her lips. Another savage figure grabbed Sarah, dragging her towards the doorway. Molly lunged, a primal, desperate cry tearing from her throat. A brutal blow to the head sent her sprawling, darkness claiming her. When she awoke, the cabin was silent. The fire had dwindled to embers, casting an eerie glow on the scene of carnage. Sarah was gone. A cold dread filled Molly's stomach, a sickening certainty twisting her insides. She was alone. The journey north was a brutal odyssey. 6 weeks of relentless hardship under the watchful eyes of her captors. The biting wind tore at her exposed skin, and hunger gnawed at her insides. Yet, a fierce spirit burned within Molly. By day, she was forced to tend to a wounded raider named Quebec, his every groan and scowl a reminder of her captivity. By night, huddled beneath a threadbare blanket, she dreamt of home, of the warmth of her family's hearth, and the comforting scent of freshly baked bread. Rumors swirled among the raiders about Molly's care. It was whispered that her treatment of Quebec was less about healing and more about revenge. The nights were filled with his pained howls and threats, a chilling counterpoint to the crackling campfire. The other raiders, a mix of desperation and cunning in their eyes, kept a watchful distance. They needed her, but her defiance earned a grudging respect. Finally, they reached Quebec City, a bustling port nestled amidst the stark beauty of the Canadian winter. Molly was sold to a gruff Frenchman named Lemoyne. His treatment, while not overtly cruel, was stifling. Her days were filled with menial tasks, sweeping the walkways under Lemoyne's constant scrutiny. The yearning for freedom gnawed at her soul. One day, a spark of hope flickered. A handsome young captain, recently arrived with his trading ship, stood at the door. His eyes met hers for a fleeting moment, a silent plea for secrecy passing between them. In the privacy of her tiny room, hands trembling, she unfolded a note. It was a lifeline thrown across the vast distance that separated her from home. Friends in Maine, yearning for her return, had orchestrated a daring escape. The following days were a blur of calculated movements and stolen glances. Molly, her heart a drum in her chest, feigned compliance while secretly mapping out her escape route. The captain, a man named McClellan, was a ghost in the periphery, his presence a source of nervous anticipation. The night of the escape arrived, cloaked in the inky blackness of a moonless sky. Fear, sharp and cold, snaked through Molly's veins as she awaited the signal. Her chance came with a knock on the front door. Lemoyne grumbled, his silhouette briefly blocking the doorway. This was it. Her heart hammered a frantic tattoo against her ribs as she crept towards the window. A rope, weighted with a comforting thud, landed on the floor. With practiced efficiency, Molly secured it to the bedpost. One last glance at the life she was leaving behind, then a leap of faith into the unknown. The rough hemp scraped at her skin as she descended, the ground rushing up to meet her. McClellan's arms, strong and steady, caught her weight. They sprinted through the silent streets, adrenaline thrumming through their veins. Every rustle of leaves, every creak of a wooden door, echoed like thunder in the stillness of the night. Just as they reached the docks, a shout ripped through the air. Lemoyne, his face contorted in fury, emerged from the shadows, the silhouette of a pursuer. McClellan cursed under his breath. The pre-arranged escape route was compromised. They scrambled aboard the Hepzibah Strong, the shouts of pursuit fading behind them as the ship pulled away from the dock. Tears streamed down Molly's face, a mixture of relief and terror. They were not yet safe. Lemoyne, fueled by a fiery rage, might raise the alarm, alerting the French authorities. The open sea, however, offered a different kind of danger. The unforgiving Atlantic could easily swallow their small vessel whole in a winter storm. Days bled into nights, the rhythmic creak of the ship a constant companion. Molly, haunted by the memory of her capture and the uncertainty of their future, found solace in helping McClellan navigate the treacherous waters. Their shared ordeal forged a bond, a silent understanding that transcended words. One particularly brutal night, a tempest descended upon them. The wind howled like a banshee, tearing at the sails and sending the ship pitching wildly. Molly, lashed to the mast, watched in horror as a monstrous wave crashed over the deck, sweeping away a crewmate. Panic threatened to consume her, but McClellan's calm voice cut through the din. He shouted instructions, his leadership unwavering even in the face of the storm's fury. For what seemed like an eternity, the Hepzibah strong battled the elements. Finally, as dawn approached, the storm began to abate. Exhausted but alive, Molly and the remaining crew surveyed the damage. The ship was battered, its sails in tatters, but they had survived. Relief washed over Molly, a sweet and heady sensation. News of their harrowing escape reached Falmouth, present-day Portland, Maine, before they did. The townsfolk, overjoyed at Molly's return, showered her with hugs and tearful greetings. Sarah, miraculously escaped from the raiders, was waiting for her on the docks, their reunion a scene of pure, unadulterated joy. Meanwhile, in Quebec City, Lemoyne seethed. His humiliation at Molly's escape was compounded by the realization that his suspicions about Monsieur Beauvais, the charming neighbor, were likely true. Beauvais's frequent visits, ostensibly for friendly calls, must have been a cover for secret communication with Molly. Blinded by rage, Lemoyne stormed towards Beauvais's house, a heavy cane clutched in his white-knuckled grip. He burst through the door, ready to unleash his fury. But Beauvais, ever the smooth operator, remained calm. He feigned innocence, feigning surprise at Molly's escape. A war of words erupted, escalating into a shoving match. Lemoyne, fueled by his frustrations, swung his cane with reckless abandon. Beauvais, surprisingly agile for his age, ducked and weaved, the furniture taking the brunt of the blows. The commotion attracted a crowd, their laughter mingling with the shouts of the two men. The scene devolved into a comical brawl, a stark contrast to the drama that unfolded across the sea. Lemoyne, frustrated and exhausted, eventually retreated, vowing revenge that would never come. The townspeople, ever fond of a good story, revelled in the spectacle, adding another layer to the legend of Molly Finney's daring escape. Back in Falmouth, a different kind of storm was brewing. The shared danger and quiet camaraderie aboard the Hepzibah Strong had blossomed into something more for Molly and McClellan. As they stood on the windswept docks, the salty spray kissing their faces, their eyes met, a silent conversation passing between them. With a shy smile, McClellan extended his hand. "Would you care to join me for dinner, Miss Finney?" he asked. Molly's heart skipped a beat. The ordeal had changed her, etching lines of resilience on her face but also sparking a newfound fire in her eyes. Taking his hand, she replied, "I'd like that very much, Captain McClellan." And so, the legend of Molly Finney's escape intertwined with a love story born from adversity, a testament to the enduring human spirit and the power of courage and hope.